Good afternoon. I'm Charles Desmond, and I'm a proud member of the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you today at this annual gathering to pay special tribute to the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. In our democracy, we have no aristocracy to whom we owe allegiance, trust, or loyalty. We are a nation of individuals who are united by one profoundly significant principle: freedom. And we are united and governed by a simple but powerful belief that each of us is endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights, chief among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Imagine it. We're the most powerful country in the history of civilization. We are the richest nation on earth, and we have the most diverse democratic nation with the longest lasting, most successful, most enviable, and most imitated constitution man has ever known. As an educator, I want to note that standing in defense of all that we have achieved in America is our public education system. Schools like these here in Danvers and other towns and communities across America doing every day what happens here in Danvers every day. Inspired teachers, able leaders, concerned and engaged parents, and countless others all working, shaping, and educating a future generation from all walks of life to become proud, strong, and freedom-loving Americans. This is exactly what Dr. Martin Luther King did, and this is why we are here today to honor him. During the less than 13 years of Dr. King's leadership of the modern civil rights movement, he had been jailed 19 times, and by 1968, the year of his tragic death, the FBI had counted 50 assassination threats against him. He has been memorialized in hundreds of statues, parks, streets, squares, churches, and other public facilities around the world as a leader whose teachings are increasingly relevant to the progress of humankind. While remembered by many for his towering and inspirational speeches, these were in many respects the easy part. His true and greatest legacy lies not so much in the dream he shared, but in the actions he took. So then, now more than ever, we must be willing to muster the courage and take the same risk today that he and countless others were prepared to take during their times to advance freedom and to strengthen democracy in America. At this time, I'd like to call on Human Rights and Inclusion Committee Chairman Dutroche D. Juco to offer words of welcome and to begin our program.
Hello, welcome to our 22nd MLK Day celebration. I'm Dutroche Joko, Chair of the Danvers Committee for Human Rights and Inclusion. It's an honor for me to speak with you on this historic day. Thanks to Ben Thomas and Greg Dolan and the whole DCAT team for filming and broadcasting this event. Thanks to Eileen Page at Town Hall and the MLK Subcommittee for working hard to put this event together. Thanks to Mr. Grover and his students for the lovely music. Thanks to all the students of the Danvers Anti-Discrimination Club and the students who participated in the bumper sticker contest for lending us their talent. Thanks to my wife Jocelyn, my parents Maurice and Rebecca Kunga, and all my kids who have always supported me and kept me grounded. And thanks to all of you at home. We usually hold this event in the halls of our marvelous high school with a few hundred residents. But this year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are having the event virtually. Before we go on with the program, please allow me to take a minute to also thank our doctors, our nurses, pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, EMTs, first responders, and all the other brave individuals who are putting their own life on the line to protect us and combat this virus. Despite their heroic effort and work, a lot of us know people who have unfortunately succumbed to this virus. I wish all affected peace, comfort, and a lot of love in this time of sorrow. We now have a couple of vaccines, and this is hopefully the beginning of the end of this global pandemic. The pandemic did not distinguish people based on race, religion, political party, or sexual orientation. This pandemic is a clear reminder that we are all, in fact, in this together. This message of togetherness, equality, and justice is what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was all about. In this time of uncertainty, each of us must play a role in helping to restore our faith in science and in our ideals. The recent attacks on our nation's capital were also a clear reminder that our nation's democratic institutions are fragile, even in this world's oldest constitutional democracy. We have to be committed, like Dr. King, not only to justice and equality, but to the pursuit of the truth. During his last sermon, Dr. King said, "No individual can live alone. No nation can live alone." The challenge that we face today is to take it one in terms of brotherhood. We have made the world a neighborhood, yet we have not had the ethical commitment to make it a brotherhood. Somehow, someway, we gotta do this. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will perish together as fools. We may have all come from different ships, but we are all in the same boat now. Because at the end of the day, what affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. Thank you, and please enjoy the rest of the program.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Bartha, and I am the Danvers Town Manager. On behalf of all town employees, it is my pleasure to offer a heartfelt greeting as we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. I will be brief in my remarks, but appreciate the opportunity to participate in this virtual program. As a collector of quotes, that is typically the first place I go when asked to offer remarks. But I want to start by acknowledging just how hard the past year has been for all Americans, including residents of Danvers. Between the global pandemic, economic upheaval, political strife, social unrest, and calls for racial justice, all of us were tested. In our culture, we are taught that strength and self-reliance are virtues, but we learned this past year that those qualities alone are not enough. None of us is strong enough to survive, let alone succeed on our own, which is why the following quotes felt so impactful to me. The first quote is from a man who was pursued by the Nazi regime for being Jewish and for speaking truth to power, Albert Einstein. He said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." The second quote is from Dr. King himself, who was killed by segregationists for being Black and for standing up for what he believed in. He said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" Both men understood that by working to improve the lives of others, we cannot help but improve our own. That by sacrificing in service to others, we create a more just world and nourish our souls. The Town of Danvers employees in the spring of 2018 adopted a set of core values, and the very first was inclusion, which we define as respect of diverse ideas, perspectives, and individuals. Service to others that is rooted in respect is not only our obligation as your municipal employees, it is, in my opinion, the highest calling. And it is reassuring to me to know that Mr. Einstein and Dr. King agree. Thank you, and please enjoy the program.
Hello, Danvers. I'm Dan Bennett, Chairman of the Select Board. And it is unfortunate that we are unable to meet in person to honor Dr. King. However, given recent events, it is more important than ever that we remember Dr. King and his work. I believe that Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes had a person like Martin Luther King in mind when he wrote in 1886, "Thus only can you gain the secret isolated joy of the thinker, who knows that 100 years after he is dead, and forgotten. Men who never heard of him will be moving to the measure of his thought, the rapture of a postponed power, which the world knows not because it has no external trappings, but which his prophetic vision is more real than that which commands an army. I think Martin Luther King had that kind of vision. Thank you.
In October 2020, the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee launched a campaign that invited students in grades 6 through 12 who reside in Danvers to create a symbol that the Danvers community could identify as a sign of unity, acceptance, and camaraderie. It is a true testament to the character of the participating students to have received so many thoughtful, creative entries. Throughout the event today, we will enjoy some of these entries as well as other artwork created by students at the Danvers elementary schools, along with musical performances from ceremonies of past years. Let's see some of this amazing work now.
On August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the I Have a Dream speech to a massive group of the civil rights marchers gathered around the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Dream that people will treat other people how they want to be treated.
I have a dream that someday we will be able to be together safely.
I have a dream that no one will be doubted because of their skin color, and that we can all be happy together in the world that we are in today.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s real name was Michael, not Martin.
I have a dream that everybody will have a positive attitude toward anything they face.
I have a dream that everybody will be kind and respectful to each other. I have a dream that we will come together and love and support each other.
One of the most famous quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. was, "I have a dream that my 4 children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." I have a dream that one day, no matter your age, no matter your skin color, no matter your gender, no matter any of your differences, everyone will be treated fairly. I have a dream that nobody in the world will be threatening, bullying, or hurting anyone anymore.
Martin Luther King Jr. entered college at the age of 15.
I have a dream that no matter someone's skin color, gender, or the way they speak or walk, we will all treat each other the same way.
I have a dream that our teachers and parents should get more recognition because during the pandemic, they are taking care of us very well.
Martin Luther King Jr. presented his I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
I have a dream that no one will be judged by the color of their skin. I have a dream that there are no bad guys.
I have a dream that everyone will always be included.
We'll stand side by side. Draw the pleased to have the opportunity to share my reflections on the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. On behalf of the Danvers School community, I would like to thank the town's Human Rights and Inclusion Committee for coordinating this virtual event, and to our students, faculty, families, and community members who have come together to honor Martin Luther King Jr. 2020 has been unprecedented. I believe that MLK Jr.'s quote, "Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase," summarizes the process for moving forward through our current challenges as a community and as a nation. With courageous caring, we have hope for 2021. To achieve this vision, we are committed to the concept of courageous caring, which is aligned to our core values as a district and encompasses the following implementable action steps: regularly reflecting on one's own biases, attitudes, and assumptions, challenging our belief systems through conversations and mutual responsibility, interrupting moments of bias or racism and using those moments to model how to understand and address them going forward to disrupt patterns of inequities, and in ensuring that all of our students have the opportunity to achieve and meet the grade level standards through culturally responsive instructional practices. Building on our solid foundation to be an inclusive community, we are committed to our first steps in 2021 and look forward to our collective work of building the staircase of racial equity for the town of Danvers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sally Kearns, and I'm so pleased to be here for our annual MLK tribute. We come together virtually this year to honor Dr. Martin Luther King, as we have for the past 30 years, to reflect on how we are doing as a community to do our part to create that more perfect union, to deliver on the promise of equality for every single American as our founders intended. The ultimate measure of a man, said Dr. King, is not where he stands in moments of convenience and comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. His message speaks to us today as we face unimagined challenges. A global pandemic that has claimed 370,000 lives in our country and counting. Fortified by a failure of federal leadership. A disproportionate share of those lives, Black and brown. Grief and outrage following the murder of George Floyd, and a reckoning with the very racial injustice King died trying to end. 1 week ago, congressional leaders met in our nation's capital to certify a free and fair election. They were attacked by violent mobs who overwhelmed the Capitol Police and smashed their way into the halls of Congress, killing one Capitol Police officer and attacking several. A protester was killed. They were encouraged by the President of the United States. It is unthinkable. The police so outnumbered that they risked their lives every second they stood on those steps and in those halls. There were MAGA hats. There were t-shirts that said, 6 million not enough. It was a terrible day for our country. As I wrote these remarks, articles of impeachment had been voted in one branch of Congress, and we wait to see who will stand up in this time of challenge and controversy. There is so much to be done to repair our democracy and ensure equality for all. Too many Black, brown, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender Americans are in danger just for living. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. Native Americans, immigrants, and poor people are all too often marginalized. What would Dr. King say to us? I think he would say, keep going. Don't give up on the beloved community. And as he told us, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We're inspired and sustained by the never-ceasing acts of support, generosity, and love that have surrounded us over these past 10 months. We can be proud that some of the symbols, those same symbols wielded at the Capitol, were rejected when they appeared in our town. We take hope from the election in November of the first woman, a woman of color, to the vice presidency of the United States, made possible by the record voter turnout among Black women. We're uplifted to see Georgia elect Reverend Raphael Warnock, an African-American man who grew up in poverty in Georgia, like Dr. King, a preacher at the 12th Ebenezer Baptist Church. My mother picked someone else's cotton, and this morning she picked her youngest son to be a United States Senator, said Warnock on Election Day. I spoke with a supporter of Reverend Warnock's the Sunday before the election as I made phone calls reminding people to vote. Ruth was 82. She needed no reminder. We talked about the election and about racial injustice and inequality. And her closing comment to me was, Sally, hate is not for us. King said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I'm proud of being a part of this committee and of our town's efforts to make Danvers welcoming to everyone, Black, brown, LGBTQ, able-bodied or disabled, to confront racism, anti-Semitism, and homophobia. We must keep going, mindful of Dr. King's words and example, choosing light over darkness, ready to be measured by what we did during this time of challenge and controversy. Thank you.
Hello, I'm State Senator Joan Lovely, and I'm honored to be here with you virtually today. Each year we celebrate and remember the remarkable legacy of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We reflect on how far we have come as a community, as a Commonwealth, and as a nation. On this day especially, we dream of the community in which we all want to live and contemplate what each of us can do to realize this community. Dr. King dreamed of a beloved community. He envisioned a community for everyone, where every person, regardless of race, religion, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation, can feel at home. A community where people are free of hunger, hopelessness, and poverty. This past year has been so hard for so many. We are still working to combat a global pandemic that has killed millions worldwide, left many without work, and forced people into food and housing insecurity. With all of this going on, we could easily despair about our future. But in response to the many difficulties we have faced, I think we have caught a glimpse of Dr. King's beloved community. Organizations and average citizens across the North Shore, the Commonwealth, and the country have stepped up to help one another. Farms are donating more food than ever to feed those who are hungry. People are giving back their time to pack and deliver meals to seniors and those without access to food. People are making masks for their friends and neighbors. The way our community has come together to lift those up in need keeps my belief in the beloved community alive. I am proud of the work that the Senate has done to realize this beloved community. As we moved into 2021 and the promise of a brighter future, I am grateful that I have the privilege to represent such compassionate communities that are dedicated to lifting us all. So on this annual day of reflection, I hope you will join me in making a commitment to help those in need, to fight for justice and equity, and to be an example of the beloved community we all wish to see. I know that working together, we can make the dreams of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a reality. In closing, I want to thank the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee for all you do to support our beloved community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is the recipient of the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee Drum Major for Justice. This individual served as Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts, Boston from 2007 to 2017. Currently, he serves as Distinguished Professor in UMass Boston College of Management. As the first African American Chancellor of UMass Boston, considered the most diverse public research university in New England, he highlighted academic excellence, access, and inclusion among key mission-related goals. He serves on numerous boards of organizations with local, regional, and national reach, including board chair of Kearny Hospital, the Boston Foundation, the Sport Museum, Stonefield College, Eastern Bank, and the Freedom House. Currently, he serves as consultant to the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. 5 years in a row, he was named the Boston Business Journal's Power 50 list of Boston area influencer. In 2016, he was named to the Get Connected 100 list of Boston 100 most influential people of color. He holds a bachelor and master's degrees from Northeastern University and a doctorate of philosophy from Boston College. He also holds honorary doctorate awarded by Northeastern University, Stonehill College, Robert Morris University, Pine Manor College, along with the President's Award for Distinguished Civic Leader from Emerson College. It's my honor and a privilege for me to introduce to you the 2021 Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee Drum Major for Justice recipient, Dr. Keith Motley.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is wonderful to be a part of today's virtual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. ceremony. What an incredible honor it is to be here with all of you. I am so grateful to the town of Danvers, Massachusetts Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, your wonderful leader, and I must mention University of Massachusetts Boston graduate, Dr. DeRoche Joko, for presenting me with the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drum Major for Justice Award. Dr. Joko is a shining example of the excellence that can manifest when the powerful lethal combination of mentoring, exposure opportunity, and hard work collide. You in Danvers, Massachusetts can be very proud of your Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. You've been setting the standard for communities throughout Massachusetts and beyond as drum majors for justice in all of its dimensions for over 2 decades. I am so proud that one of the first towns I learned about when I came to Boston as a teenager years ago through Danvers native Dana Skinner, my teammate at Northeastern University, continues to lead in these type of efforts on the North Shore and beyond. I also want to shout out to a dear friend and someone who has been an important part of my life for a whole lot of years, Paul Pollack. Paul Pollack was a model for me of excellence at Northeastern University years ago. And so, Coach, thank you for all that you do and all you continue to do to be a model of excellence for all of us that are trying to walk in your footsteps. But finally, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you and acknowledge Dr. Charlie Desmond, who is not only a tremendous leader, but also a great role model, mentor, colleague, and friend. He has taken the time my entire career to not only model excellence for me, but to remind me of his pride in the accomplishments that I've been fortunate enough to have made throughout this pathway called life. Just about the time COVID fatigue was about to kick in, I got a call from Charlie. And Charlie was calling me to let me know about the Drum Major for Justice Award from Danvers, and I was so proud, and it energized me. So thank you, Charlie. You know, the contributions that you've made over your lifetime are a model for all of us, and we're all trying to run to catch up to that model and also to be a part of it with you any opportunity that we can. I'm honored to receive any award associated with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I feel fortunate enough to remember learning about and living through the last decade of his life, witnessing his work through television news excerpts, sermons in church, and also reading about him in Golden Legacy comic books as a child. Dr. King was a model of bold leadership and a superhero to all of us. In honoring me with this award, you pay tribute to all of those who instilled the values that have made me worthy enough to accept such a prestigious award from your incredible organization. So it is with honor that I accept this award for all those incredible human beings who prepared a pathway to excellence for me. My parents, who wrapped their arms around me as a child and prepared me spiritually and modeled community service and also engagement. They exposed me to education, and even in a blue-collar city like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, allowed me to be exposed to learning opportunities on college campuses that prepared the opportunity for me to come to Boston years ago and be okay with educating myself in a college environment. Here in my second home of Boston, I've had the opportunity to learn from several presidents and others along the way who have mentored me and made sure that we were engaged in the community, similar to the course that all of you and many of you have been on in your lives. I am proud to learn that you here in Danvers understood Dr. King when he stated in his speech, "A time to break the silence," that it was a time as for a town such as this to undergo a radical revolution of values. When machines and computers and profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and also systemic challenges are capable of being conquered. And you all went to work and understood that. And you're working every day to conquer these things so that they don't perpetuate themselves in your town or beyond. Dr. King was speaking about the beloved community. He was talking about working toward healthy communities that could care for their own infrastructure, keep their own schools clean, and also educate at the highest level of excellence, in ensuring that in that beloved community it would be open to all. And that's what this incredible community is all about. And that's what this committee is working so hard to do here on the North Shore and beyond. You chose not to sit back in apathy and watch the ravages of racism, materialism, and other isms. You decided to work hard and to do something about it. You know, Dr. King said a lot of things, and there are a lot of pretty words attributed to him. Words like darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. He said, let no man pull you so low as to hate him. He also said, I've decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. He said the time is always right to do what is right. But then there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic, nor popular. But he also said you must take it because conscience tells you to do it and tells you that it's right. Our lives begin. To end the day, we become silent about things that matter. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And he also said, in the end, we will be remembered not by the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And so you haven't been silent here in Danvers. You've been working together as a community to make a difference, even when you could have got away with not even doing that. You stepped up and you took care of all of yours. And so, like another old Southern preacher used to say, you needn't scorch or a wicked house at night, nor toss a torch, but just daily leave a termite. What were they saying? We must come to see that the end, and at the end we seek a society that is at peace with itself, and a society that can live with its conscience. Danvers, you've determined, as you should, that it's okay to learn individual wealth generation. It's okay to fill jobs that are in demand. It's also okay to have a good living. In addition to all those wonderful things, you've decided to make sure that those things are open to everyone, and that you would plant a few termites in the wooden house of discrimination, and termites would erode that house of racism, materialism, and build the beloved community. Push for more, and also have a robust democracy that makes room for everyone. It makes this world a new world. So that is why I'm so proud to be here today. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this award, and Godspeed to all of you. Thank you so much.
To me, Martin Luther King Day is important because it reminds us of how much work we have left to do. I think a lot of people look back on Dr. King's work and think about how far we've come, but I also think it's important to consider how much farther we have left to go and to apply his ideas to current times. There's still a lot of work to do in the world in terms of justice, and I think that Dr. King would agree with me if he could see what the world is like now. But we can also look back at Dr. King and see that change is possible as long as we keep working at it.
Luther King Day is a day to honor activism and to honor people who have made strides in civil rights activism, and it's also a day to appreciate how far we've come and to recognize that there is still a very long way to go.
MLK Day honestly holds a lot of significance to me because not only does it honor the legacy of MLK, but it also reminds me that I should really take the opportunity to show love and kindness through volunteering and in my community and promoting respect for people of other races, ethnicities, as well as people who are just different than I am. You know, sometimes you get so busy with life, you forget that others may not have the same opportunities as you and may not be able to live life to the fullest due to financial, mental, or physical roadblocks. So, you know, it's really great to have a holiday like MLK Day that promotes and reminds you of the values of forgiveness, nonviolence, reconciliation, tolerance, unconditional love, and last but not least, equality.
I'm Sadie Souza. I go to the Holden Richmond Middle School and I'm in 6th grade. The inspiration behind my bumper sticker was my neighbor Charles, Black Lives Matter, and Pride Month. The puzzle piece design represents how we're all a piece of the puzzle. Puzzle pieces also stand for autism awareness. This was important to me because my neighbor Charles has autism. I also added black and brown puzzle pieces and rainbow puzzle pieces. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me to speak as part of the celebration of the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is a great honor for me to be here with you today. 2020 has been a year like no other for all of us. The world is grappling with the deadly pandemic, overwhelming the healthcare systems, bringing illness and death, and is the cause of economic calamity for millions. Here in Danvers, many people's quality of life diminished precipitously. Comfort zones and lifestyles were replaced with isolation, unemployment, food insecurity, school closures, and a growing fear of the threat to individual health. As a nation, we both witnessed and participated in a hotly contested partisan presidential campaign through the summer and the election in the fall. This campaign unfolded against a backdrop of heinous crimes against minorities, videos of which were splashed across our television sets as we sat at home. Those images shook all of us and greatly accelerated the growth of the Black Lives Matter movement. This in turn was viewed by others as a repudiation of law enforcement, sparking a counter-movement. Many looked to recapture some of their known comfort and security, finding solace in the support of a symbol of respect for traditional authority and stability in an unstable world. The Blue Lives Matter became a counter-movement in support of police. Across the land, debate and protest raged as both sides mobilized to spread their message. These galactic movements took root in Danvers, beginning with a seemingly innocuous placement of a thin blue line flag on a fire engine in support of police killed in the line of duty. Unfortunately, this flag had also come to represent movements with more nefarious ideals. Some Danvers citizens struggling to find their place in our community felt threatened by this symbol and bravely expressed their concerns. Our town government and political leaders took action, ordering the flag removed. Other citizens seeking to support police organized a petition requiring that a special town meeting be called to vote on a warrant ordering the return of the flag. Rallies intended to garner support for the flag issue got out of control, with political activists in the presidential campaign overwhelming the intended message of support for local law enforcement. It is at this point that townspeople began to take notice of the issue. Ultimately, the movement was overwhelmingly defeated at town meeting. But I have to ask you, did we effectively address the underlying issue of some residents feeling marginalized? The answer is clearly no. To me, rejecting the use of the thin blue line flag on fire apparatus does nothing to address the marginalization and intimidation of some of our residents. The flag is a symbol of, but not the source of the issue. The real issue is ensuring that our community is welcoming to all. It matters not that we think we are welcoming. It matters that those marginalized and intimidated do not feel welcome. It is our responsibility as a community to ensure that those consequences, creating the marginalization and intimidation of some residents, is addressed and rectified. Refuting the flag issue does not meet that responsibility. But how do we do so? Dr. King helps us consider how, with his words in a speech accepting his Nobel Peace Prize. Within the context of that speech, King states that man must evolve from all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. But how does love for all man evolve? How does this happen in Danvers? It can begin by recognizing and validating those feelings of marginalization and intimidation that exist among some of us. We cannot say simply, join us in our comfort zone. We must learn to make our community a comfort zone for all, and not just for us. We need to get to know and understand others' feelings. We need to reach out to those and welcome them into a community that addresses their needs as well as our own. We need to understand that others may have a different comfort zone from ours, but that are just as valid and should be recognized and respected in town. As a community, we have undertaken citizen committee efforts to learn how to make our community more welcoming. In our schools, similar actions have been undertaken. But as individuals, we need to do more. We need to get to know others in the community that may not look like us or act the same as we do. The pandemic has disrupted all of our comfort zones. As vaccines allow for a gradual return to normalcy, we will look to reestablish our comfort zones and quality of life. What a tremendous opportunity to reflect and reach out to include others in our efforts to return to normalcy. As individuals, we can do our part to make Danvers a welcoming community for all. And that will, in part, help us realize the dreams of the man we honor today. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
On behalf of all of the members of the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, we want to thank all of you for joining us today at this annual celebration of the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Thank you all very much for joining us in this virtual presentation, and we hope next year we can all be back together again at Danvers High School and celebrate again the work of Dr. Martin Luther King.